Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Sign Pod. I'm Ryan Cavanaugh.
I'm Justin Heath.
And I'm Mark.
We don't just sell real estate and talk about real estate transactions. We also love to highlight community here where we live. And today we're in Ambler. We're at Ambler's newest project at 13 South Ridge, the Ridge Hall. And as that's developing and opening up, we are honored to be here today with the anchor tenant, Twisted Ginger Brewing, owned and operated by Mark Mayer. So Justin and I are going to talk to Mark a little bit today, introduce you guys to Twisted Gingers here in Ambler.
Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, welcome to the pod.
This is a pod.
Yeah.
We got a nice little pod going. We got a nice little pod going.
We are.
And just in case you get dehydrated, we have plenty of liquids.
We are well hydrated
Cheers.
now. Cheers.
Here's to cold Mayer Blondes.
So
Mark, welcome to the pod. Pleasure to have you. We're excited to sit down with you and talk a little bit. We know you've had the brewery in the works for a little while. Give us a little bit of the backstory on yourself and the idea of Twisted Gingers.
So it's formulated around sarcasm. If you get to know me for the next 3 minutes, you'll probably regret doing this podcast because it doesn't end, and that's kind of what makes really, really hard work and dedication still fun, because you get to make fun of a lot of things in the process, mostly myself. But I started out as a home brewer because I hated everything you can buy at the packaged goods store, and I was like, why spend money on something that you're like, yeah, that's beer. Yeah. So I bought a homebrew kit and basically started becoming the highlight of gatherings, because people would grab a used bottle with a torn label on it with fresh homebrew in it, and they were like, who brought this? This is really good. So that evolved into...
Brewed in the dungeon.
that was Mark brought that.
Yeah, it was basically one of those, I think this is good, but the world around me said this is really good. So what do you do from there? You know, I had a couple different careers, and the family business was restaurant and catering. So I started brewing in a garage at one of the big venues and testing those beers out on the clients that I sold the events. I oversaw the events. So I had great connections with people, and I got just really good feedback, honest feedback from firemen, Italian American club events, you name it. And they got to try the beer, and I got feedback that, you know, my dad's accountant was always like, oh, you need to get honest feedback, you know, not just your friends telling you it's good beer. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. And South Old Bridge Fire Department, like, they were giving me hugs when I would bring them some of the products.
Love it.
They still
Love
haven't
that.
come down to visit yet, but we're going to get to that at another time.
Awesome.
Well, we'll send them this, and we'll kind of put a little peer pressure on them to get down here. Old Bridge Fire, we're talking to you.
Yeah, so, you know, you started this essentially in the basement, right? Ground floor.
So it was different floors.
Yeah.
A lot of it was in a commercial kitchen until I had like a more sophisticated brewing system.
Right.
And then I took a brewing course in Asheville, North Carolina. And when I told them I was going to try and open a brewery with this small system, they were like, you're never going to leave the building. So that's when I got a used 3-barrel system and set up shop in Manayunk. We converted a nuisance bar into a tap room brew pub, and that was kind of where we got our foot in the door in the industry without spending millions and millions of dollars on equipment.
What did it for you? You talk about like your disdain for the select style of beer, right? That kind of
Macro beers.
the macro beers. What was it about the disdain? I mean, you reference Eric Cartman.
Yep. He said gingers didn't have souls, and I'm a ginger, so that's kind of fighting words.
Love a
if
good
you
ginger.
ask. But the disdain is really towards a macro beer that puts itself in the limelight as a great tasting beer, and I never saw it. I never saw it tasting great. And my father was a huge macro light beer fan. So I said, hey, my first recipe is going to be to make something, a craft version of a light beer that he would appreciate. And, you could tell when someone's just saying yes, or if they really love a product. And that's where we got to with my dad. And it was like one of those, all right.
How long did it take you to develop that?
I think it was by the 5th version.
Wow.
And that was from scratch. These are first all grain recipes, because back when you start homebrewing, you buy a kit and you follow instructions. And following instructions, yeah, I'm good at that. But when you design a beer recipe, that's when it's kind of like, oof, I got to really plan this out and figure it out. So after about 5 different versions, the feedback got more and more honest, more and more like, wow, can you make me a whole keg of this? And I just went from there. So that was kind of the motivation was to, I don't know, if I could convince him that there's better beer out there, then it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Now, outside of getting into it in the homebrew, and obviously I've done homebrew myself with the kits, and I know that. Did you have any background in science? Because I know there's a lot of science in brewing. So did you have a background in science, or?
In science, just not food science.
Gotcha.
There was exercise science,
Okay.
actually.
Okay. Yeah. So was that a challenging learning curve for you to like dial in the what is it, chemistry, I guess, or?
Yeah, there's a lot of chemistry. It's really just about, in my honest opinion, about having a palate.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the restaurant world. My father, had several restaurants, off-premise catering. So I was immersed in a household that the food was always awesome. And when your family dinners, you really look forward to every family dinner, or going to one of the restaurants. Like you start to develop kind of what wows you about food. And I applied that same concept to the beer. Meaning, like, you start to, well, how do I know this malt's going to taste good in this beer? And then you grab a handful of it out of the sack and you chew on it for a little bit, and you're like, oh, I can see where that's going to go. And then you start researching and finding some really, really interesting malts that, you don't know until you start searching. And then you look at what your supplier offers. And I have 2 different suppliers that offer just super broad ranges of products that, we could create a flavor in there that, it's just
Can't
exciting.
find anywhere else.
It's just exciting because it doesn't have to be boring.
Yeah.
And boring's okay. Like I used to tell people, as long as you like what you're drinking, that's what matters.
Right.
Like, because it's about the beverage, but it's also about celebrating something. And if you're happy with what's in front of you, then my goal was to have you try something that you wouldn't normally watch or consume.
Yeah.
And then it's like watching Star Wars for the first time. You're like, this is
shit's
really,
better than
really
what I
good.
thought it was gonna be.
It's like you watching this podcast for the first time. You were skeptical, but now you realize it's really, really good.
Love it. So you referenced that you were down in Manayunk. What brought you to Ambler?
So Ambler, I knew Forrest and Maine, great guys. Just texting with them before. Great beer scene, because they make great products. Well Crafted Cheer, Tannery Run, like they're all doing great. And
Do you collaborate a lot with them?
Not yet, just because we're still dialing things in here. It's all in the plans, but it's one of those, like we're really close to having all our quality control measures in place and just dialed in, because it's much bigger equipment. There's a lot more that just takes a little longer to get it perfect. And I'm a perfectionist when it comes to that, because I won't send beer out unless I absolutely love it. So that's a tall order on, quadrupling our batch sizes.
Yeah. So Ambler in itself, right? It's got a great food scene, the nightlife here. You moved from Manayunk to Ambler, right? What is it that keeps you wanting to kind of grow this thing into being a staple in the community about Ambler?
So I came here because I was invited to come into this project by a fellow named Russell Mahoney. He got me out of the weeds in the build out in Manayunk, because in the city things are much harder and things were going much further sideways than I was 8 months over on budget, because I just couldn't get things finished. And Russell was recommended, and he got me out of the weeds, and he saw what I did in 5 years through COVID, and just watched me turn basically like a druggy pickup spot to a very successful restaurant. So he was like, "Hey, we're building like a mini Reading Terminal Market over here. You know, do you want to set up shop here? Because it'd be a lot easier to start here than it was over in Manioc, just from exposure and being in the center of this neighborhood here." And this was part of a 5-year plan. It was a 5-year plan to get down to Pennsylvania originally from New Jersey. Then it was a 5-year plan to get the brewery open, and it was a 5-year plan to expand it. Brewing in Manioc, tight streets, really, really hard to get grain deliveries there, everything. So here, this was the game plan, because we have equipment that will allow us to recreate these same recipes very consistently, and just less 4-letter words, if you will.
We like those 4-letter words, though.
We understand that. We discuss
we
that.
use them often in our business.
Yeah, we are frequent advocates of 4-letter words to vent. But when coming to Ambler, did you know much about, other than obviously like Forrest and those guys, like, did you know much about the community before getting in here, and not so much, or a little bit?
I mean, I knew kind of who was in the neighborhood. Yeah. I just knew that from attending some of the street festivals here that Ambler loves craft beer.
Ambler does love craft beer.
And love a good time.
Like that's what brewers feed on is just people that are really interested in trying their products and having fun with it. And like that was the kind of the safety net. It's like if you fail here, it's not because the town doesn't support craft beer.
Yeah,
you know, like
totally.
Yeah, I mean, and we know you guys were able to open up, I believe May, right? Was the opening?
May 2nd.
So you've partaked in now a few of Ambler's First Fridays, arts and music, car shows already occurred. Mm-hmm. How are you guys feeling? And obviously, I know, like, you know, I've been in a time or two. I know a bunch of my friends have been in and like coming in. How are you guys feeling the reception with those events that have occurred? I can't imagine.
It's awesome. Yeah. Like it's really just exciting that I mean, we got the green light to open on May 2nd by the health department, like 2:00 in the afternoon, and First Friday was starting at like basically 4.
Yeah.
So we had a plan in mind, but it was one of those, you know, you don't know what it looks like until you see it. And we literally started up, and you know, a couple of the draft lines weren't working right, and everyone was just happy to be walking in here, getting fresh beer. So we, in order to handle the crowd, I actually hooked up a draft box right to 2 of the lagering tanks and poured beers right out of it. Because I was like, we need to break the line, and people were like, "What are you doing over there?" And I'm like, "I'm pouring fresh beer.
Get in here.
You're getting fresh,
freshest beer you'll get." Yeah. Because every time beer's handled into another package, the wow factor goes down a little bit. And when you get it from the tank, like, you get the same experience that a brewer gets, because that's what's kind of spoils a brewer, because we're pulling beers from the tank, man. And like, it's one of those
high octane.
Well, you everything's not this good. Like when you open a can from the store, like, it's still great beer, but it's not as fresh. And that was what the introduction was like. And people were like, "You really pouring that from, like, watch the bubbles go, man." Like it's
that's awesome.
I wish I was on the other receiving end of that.
I wish I was here for that First Friday too.
Well, I did a lot of quality control that night too, to make sure the beer was just as good as it is now.
Oh, tell us about the product that you have that you're brewing. How long it takes to brew it, what you're offering to the public when they come in here.
So recipes can take anywhere from 7 days. Like Belgians will take more like 2 months, and then barrel aged things, it's kind of like however long you want to leave it, and you know, you test it once in a while. But we're doing our Mayor Blonde Ale, which is, you know, that beer we talked about earlier,
which is fantastic.
It still makes me smile. And we have proper equipment to do lagering and to do pilsners. So like we had no sophisticated refrigeration in Manayunk. So, I did one lager there. It was the middle of February, and it was because it was 55 degrees in the basement of the brewery. So it was, this is how we did it. Here, we turned a little dial, you do a couple little buttons, and it was, I almost broke down in tears the first day that I was able to basically cold crash an IPA to turn the temperature down, because I didn't have to move a tank. I didn't have to watch door frames. It was just click, and it was this is what the professionals what do you have to do to cold crash beer? I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it.
It's a top secret information.
Well, it's like
it's on a need to know basis.
A lot of four-letter words.
A lot of four-letter words.
The four-letter words.
So I'm sure the first time here is when you needed that Staples button, bang, that was easy.
Yeah. Well, nowadays it's the Amazon button, because they just whatever
they just
part you're
show
missing. But we have a peach sour on the Peach and Street, so that's a tribute beer to the neighborhood where we all started. That was actually a contest of what to name it, and that was what we picked.
Walk us through. So we've got some of what you're brewing, putting in cans here. Walk us through what we're seeing here.
So talking about Peach and Street, so it's a fruited sour. What does that mean? Real peaches, and the pH is dropped in it using a souring process. Consider it a kettle sour, and it's tart. It's balanced. It's not overtly sweet, and it's just a really, really nice break from pilsners, stouts. It's just another piece of the puzzle that it's a great summertime beer. Daywalker has become our. I always wanted to have a house IPA, and when COVID landed, the only way you stayed in business was canning, and then also making a different IPA every single week, trying to put out a new beer, and it's awesome, but it's a lot more work. And people actually were like, hey, can you just keep the same IPA on for a while? I was like, wouldn't life be a little easier that way? So Daywalker was it, and that beer's been very, very well received, and we're really dialed in the process here on the new brewing equipment. So the ginger beer was kind of a necessity, because people kept pulling up next to the brew van. I'm like, oh my God, you make all ginger beers. And I'm like, did you not see South Park? I'm like, you gotta watch this episode where basically Eric Cartman insults me. So I was like, finally,
Eric Cartman.
I was like, we're gonna make a ginger beer. So, 100 pounds of fresh ginger goes into this batch, and it's not easy, but people are responding really, really well to it. It's really fun, because I've always I think it's awesome, but when you watch other people oh my God, is it okay? This is the greatest thing ever. I'm like, cool. I'm like, we're gonna make more of it.
I like that. What's your best seller?
Daywalker. IPA still hold it.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if that trend will ever break. Daywalker is an American IPA, so it's kind of right down the middle. It's not overly sweet. It's not overly bitter. Has really nice aromatics of mango and a little piney citrus. Mayor Blonde is the classic. So that is kind of a staple with us that will always be on tap. Same way Daywalker is moving towards that category. We just packaged the watermelon bubblegum seltzer. People look at me, especially my girlfriend who hates bubblegum. Just, does that really go?
And
I'm like, have a
4-pack on the way out of here.
Sip. I'm like, it's one of those weird things that we actually have a special piece of equipment just for blending flavors into seltzers, and it was much harder over in Manayunk, much less consistent. Now we've got it nailed down, and it's actually fun. We hook this little mixing cart up, and we recirculate it, try it, and we can add a little more. Nope, we're almost there. Add a little more, and then boom, we got it. The Tisberries, those are actually friends of mine over in Manayunk. They used to play. They still do. Actually, this Wednesday they're playing at the tap room. Just Tyler, the lead singer, but local band. And he always played for events at the tap room, and they're like, "Hey, we're releasing an album, like an actual vinyl
pretty cool.
album. He's like, would you be willing?
Who's the
to,
band? Do you know?
The
Tisberries.
Tisberries.
Oh, Tisberries.
So that's
Okay.
the
Yeah,
name
yeah.
of the band, and they were like, "Will you make an album for us, or a beer
for our album.
for the album?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would love to," because these guys are like they're in their prime. You watch their all their Instagram.
We're
These
having
guys
light bulb moments over here.
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
crushing it. Like
Yeah.
they're just having a blast. And I like to be a part of that energy. I would love to. And of course, deadlines, we're running late trying to get the labels in time. And so we called it an album release pale ale. It's just under 5% alcohol.
That's
And
great.
it's got just amazing aromatics on it. And it's really crisp, easy drinker. So they're actually playing at the tap room. I'm so excited because like they're gonna be playing, and basically their album is is gonna be on the can.
We're gonna have to get them to do a show in here.
They will.
Okay.
Yeah. So I traded a bunch of beer for 2 shows.
Smart man
love
right
it.
there.
Yeah.
Smart man.
And then Black Fox is our black lager. So that's a German inspired black lager. If you're German and a non-German says black lager, they go Schwarzbier. It's a Schwarzbier. I
Trying to
was
say that. Spotsbier. Spotsbier.
I always go back to
Spotsbier.
Spaceballs with that. Like,
I love
Schwarzbier too.
Spaceballs. Great movie.
Great movie.
And sucking and sucking.
When,
Great movie.
Comb the desert.
Comb the desert, baby.
When you obviously, I'll tie this back into our business a little bit, but when you took over that property in Manayunk, right? It was, I would say, I would classify it as a stigmatized or a distressed property, right? Like you had its challenges itself.
You mean the ceiling hanging in?
Yeah, those kind of things. Yeah.
Steel gates on all the doors.
When you were going into that process, obviously you were able to see the vision behind what you saw in life. And I think that's a thing that we run into a lot. When we're working with clients is we see properties that may or may not be great, but have a ton of potential behind the sign, right?
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
What was the thing that got you to be like, this is the opportunity for me?
So growing up, my father had, I think it was 22 Stool Bar in Saraville, New Jersey, and it was in a neighborhood. It's a different neighborhood, but
Similar.
same feel to what I wanted to recreate, because I saw the neighborhood camaraderie of all my dad and his friends hanging out every day for happy hour and just having a lot of laughs, and it was just great community. Then the restaurant would fill up with dinner crowd and all that, but like the energy, the value, and kind of the customer service, like it was just a really great vibe that I didn't want to be a tourist spot.
Yeah.
I don't brew beer to make millions and millions of dollars. Like we'll make our money to pay our bills, but it's not about that. It's about the what beer does for a conversation, for just elevating you out and understanding that there's a lot more good than bad.
Yeah.
And focus on that, and that's how you move forward. But that neighborhood concept was what I wanted to build. I had no idea how hard it was going to be to transform a really, really beat up space into what it is now. And would I do it again? I don't know. But what that space has become is it's very consistent. We have our pizza program and same beers on tap here or over there also, and the neighborhood has responded really, really well to it, and that's the feel good part of it. Like it's part of that neighborhood, and I got a lot of pushback when I tried opening. I actually named a beer 2 votes because both neighborhood councils voted. Well, they were trying to not stop me, and they didn't know who I was. They didn't know if I was just another nuisance bar, in the
And a
works.
lot of times down in the city, they want to know who you are before they give you the approval to
They
open
vetted
up.
me 6 ways this Sunday, and I guess I've proven the naysayers wrong, because I've been very supportive to the neighborhood as far as doing like local charity related things, as well as just holding to my word that this is not going to become a problem in your neighborhood. We close at 11. We we don't do things we said we weren't going to do. We're not a shot in a beer bar. They didn't understand craft beer. Craft beer it's a higher priced product. It's more, I guess, a little more sophisticated, where like people that are going out to tear it up, like they don't usually go there. Like they're people that come to us are people that are like, wow, what's on this week? Like what haven't had that before. This is really good. Like in other words,
a repeat clientele.
Elevating it, but they're there for an experience, not to be the first of 20 stops for the night or the last. You know, that's why. But we held true to it, and the neighborhood's been great, and it's, you know.
And I think, I mean, tying into that, I know, you know, the location that you're in here with Ridge Hall, I know is a larger project, but I think you guys being the anchor tenant here, I think you will hope, I hope and I feel you will you will see that same return here. I think Ambler does, and hopefully you've had less challenges here too, because I think we are more receptive than the city neighborhoods might be, and are excited for new opportunity, right? We've had a few new restaurants open up recently, or just kind of change and do some things, and we get excited here for that, because it's almost like there can never be enough good here, and we love it, and like the community just
it becomes a destination for people, right? Like they want to come here, so to see a business like yourself operating and providing a quality product, they're gonna keep coming back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, the energy here was right out of the gates. No one had to find me.
Yeah.
Like in Manioc,
Well,
I took my car to get inspected or whatever, 6 blocks away, and the mechanic had no idea there was a brewery in the neighborhood. I'm just like, okay, like it's one of those. I'm not great at advertising. You know, I get better every day.
We'll
some help.
We'll talk about that piece, that advertising piece, and word of mouth. What's been a game changer for you in the business? I stumped you.
That's okay. We do the
like
same.
that.
I don't know.
Podcast is the game changer.
What's gotten you out of your comfort zone? What's changed the landscape for Mark in the business?
I'm just believing in what I can do. Like what's changed? I can't remember what I wrote on.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said something, you know, along the lines, right? The only way you grow is being forced to figure out the hard things, right? I love that line, because it's back up against the wall. The only way is forward, and you're
burn the ships, baby. Burn the ships.
You're burning the ships down, right? Like,
well, it's kind of like a point of no return. Like you can't turn around. You know, like the first place. My house was leveraged on a loan for it, and COVID landed, you know, less than 3 months from opening. So that was one of those, what's COVID? You know, like, geez, what do we do now?
yeah.
Right.
So then, you know, I called my brother up, and we helped me put together a dough recipe, and just bought a pizza oven and started figuring it out, and learned how to can beer. But it's the mindset of, like, the bills have to be paid. So if you want to sit around and hope for the best, then you could do that. Like it's one of those. But by the time you realize if it doesn't work out, you know, you don't have a house to go to anymore, because the bank's going to take it. Yeah. Where like when you put yourself in those situations, it forces you to grow. Yeah. It forces you to make relationships, talk to people, figure it out, and just, you know, put the gas pedal down and really exceed what you ever thought you could do. Because I didn't even realize it, but I had a beard down to here, and because I was the only one going to work. I was on the road. There was like 3 other cars the whole trip into Manioc.
This is important because you know, this ties into our business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agents in our business that struggle with what to do, how to do it, when to do it, who to go to do it. There's some statistic out there that only 51% of real estate agents in our industry sell more than one home.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So put that in perspective, there's 49% of agents that never sell a house. They never sell more than one house.
They just have their license.
They have their license, they're operating, and so for us, we look for individuals like yourself that are doing something inspirational, not just for themselves, but they're providing an atmosphere for the community to get together in.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're really offering. It's about the end result, which is the product, right? But it's more so about the experience that they're getting when they're walking through your door.
It's being in a, like, it's like into someone's house where you're going there to try the food or try the drinks. Like it's like these products, like they're all my recipes. They're all things that I know I love, because I don't just make any beer. Like people ask me to make certain beers and I haven't gravitated towards it yet. I haven't said a hard no, but in other words, you typically lean towards the ones that you're privy to, or you kind of wrap your arms around. But like when you make a product that elevates people, that makes them go like, wow, like the ginger beer, for example, like watching people like respond to that product, like it's like, holy cow, like I was literally, throwing pasta at the walls. Let's see what sticks. And I knew the flavors, but I didn't know exactly how it was going to work until one day I was like, there it is. And now the equipment I have now, like I can create a guaranteed consistent product.
I feel like all the businesses that have been around for such a long time and they're a staple in the community have that exact same approach. They're throwing it against the wall and they're seeing what is sticking, and they find it, and that's what they're.
And on top of that, they're constantly adapting and doing that, right? Like, he's constantly trying new things, trying different combinations, in your sense, combinations of malts and hops and time and all and amounts. And it's that passion to keep pushing forward, right? It's like, what else can I do?
Yeah.
What else can I make that I like?
It's not only the ingredients, but we no longer do beer flights. People are like, what do you mean you don't do beer flights? And I was like, well, I'll tell you, because we call them the beer bros, the really serious, untapped guys. They're into beer. They're into the ratings, and I love it. But when some of the beers that I've put my heart and soul into, and I see like really terrible reviews come back, like for example, like sour, like Peach and Street, 2.5, and it's like don't like sours. It's like
that's unfair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we stopped doing flights, because when you have a craft beer experience and you start out with the first one, you're getting the freshest one. The head's still strong on it. It's still the right temperature, and you're getting a proper experience. By the time you get to number 4,
it's warm.
It's probably 10 degrees warmer. The head's gone, and your palate's already just kind of like off camber, because you've had a dark beer, an IPA, a sour, like in other words, all the things that and I'm like, how do I fix this? Because they're not getting the experience that I want them to have. So we do 8-ounce pours now. So now we do them one at a time. It's like you can order 4 of those, but you're going to get 3 sips of that beer. And by the 3rd sip, that's when you're going to know, like, oh, I get it. Like, I totally get it, because you can't just take one quick sip. Oh, let's move on to the next one. Like, that's not what craft beer is. I mean, aside from understanding the flavors, I mean, craft beer is kind of a conversation you're having. Like, it's about sitting amongst people and discussing it. What do you taste?
Exactly.
Because I could tell you 6 ways a Sunday, all the flavors I get, but if you don't, like, if you're not wrong. Like, when you try a beer and you're like, well, I get pineapple, and like, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those, that's what you get, and that's what craft beer is. And no one
It's
should stand in front of you like,
individualized.
oh no, it's mango. Like, no, it's. If you taste pineapple,
It's pineapple.
It's pineapple.
Pineapple
to you,
Express.
right? Like,
Pineapple.
like we're not. Craft beer is not a mean thing. It's one of those, like, that's what I learned in the sensory classes I've taken. Like, in other words, you're your own person.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, this is what you should taste, but you might interpret it differently. And awesome. That's why some people like tomato sauce, and some people like
Don't.
garlic
Yeah.
aioli. Like.
Give us a quote or a motto that you live by.
Being besides where gingers have souls, I guess celebrate life with the twists. Like the beer is always about celebrating something, because I don't know, life can be hard, and
No doubt about that.
everyone knows that, and the way I refuse to dwell on it is by pulling something positive out of the day, whether, coming from a funeral, whatever it is. Like, there's always something positive to take out of it. And when you can do that, all of a sudden, not only does your mind change, but the people you're sitting with, they all go, huh, like, and then they start moving on a positive direction also. And that's what I want craft beer experiences to be like, is in other words, let's pull something great. Like, yeah, so 19 things went wrong today, because I could tell you, in this place, there have been 19 things that have gone wrong in this single day, but the one great thing that comes up that, is what you want to focus on, because, cool, I got something I can move forward with, and know that I'm gonna fix the other 19 things by tomorrow or whenever it needs to be done. But bringing the positive out and sharing it and building not only a craft beer experience, but just an elevating conversation where like life's hard, man. You need more of that, and that's what, to me, craft beer does.
I mean, I love that, because life is not always easy.
It's
right?
hard.
For the most part, it's not easy at all. And we all have our outlets to relieve some of that life
Stress.
And I do think, having a place like Twisted Gingers here in Ambler is a great opportunity for us. Our office is steps away. So like, we have a bad day, we have a new spot, right? We can like post up in here. We obviously know the product is good. We don't have to worry about that. And ultimately, we know the people are good. So like, it's a matter of just that thing that brightens your day.
Yeah. I think more importantly, it's a place of community.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it seems like here. You're building a place of community for people to congregate, sit down, have conversation with each other, and just kind of let go of everything else outside the door.
It's awesome, because even when we're not open, the number of people that just walk by and wave.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sign that this was a really great decision to build basically my dream brewery in this town and be part of something that supports it and kind of wants to see what's our twist on beer and the craft cocktails, the wines, like all the things that make this place an industrial lounge. You're getting to sit inside a brewery and enjoy some beverages. Like it's like, to the amount of, it's hilarious, because we're sitting in front of this garage door here.
Yeah.
And the amount of faces that would come up and just look through the glass. And I was usually parked at the bar, like doing payroll or whatever, trying to just keep the engines going. And then they'd be like, oh my God, someone's sitting in there or whatever. Like, but they would come by every week and they'd see,
That's great.
The mural took a month.
Yeah.
A very talented artist who was working at
And
nights
that is
in here.
detailed.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's detailed.
It's basically one of my motivational pieces. That's basically an older version of my daughter.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, it's about what inspires you. And if there was ever a thing I wanted to have to look at every day, it was something that
Inspired.
that moves you.
We appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, for sure. And to touch on that, like, even while we've been filming here, we've had a number of people double, triple take, because now they don't only see just you, but they see this setup that we have right now. And I hope they find this or come in and check out what they're peeking at, because it's good feelings in here.
Yeah.
Well, they also maybe are you selling Fords now too?
Yeah, we are not selling
Somehow we
Fords, but
managed to get a Ford F-150 Lightning inside of a brewery. I don't know how that happened, but
we did bring the truck into the brewery.
Getting it out might be a little more fun.
That's-
but hey,
we'll
man.
make it work.
Yeah.
We'll make it work.
We're going to figure that one out.
I actually
one-
might be better pulling out of this thing, knowing that I've had Mayor.
Justin has
Mayor
like
guidance.
Justin's
Mayor
got like
guidance
4 kids. He is not good at pulling out of anything. So
That's video edit.
come on, that's funny. But no, one funny side note for Mark here. So you guys started, when did you start work here? You started work in last August, right?
On site, Yeah, so we had equipment delivered middle of September once the floor was done, like walk-in box.
Okay.
But like last August, there was no roof.
Yep.
There was just a pile of dirt in here, and that's when my manufacturer like called me. They're like, "Oh, by the way, your equipment's done 2 months early. We're gonna ship it." And I was like, "Well, there's no roof on where it's getting stored, so I'm gonna have to decline on that." So we're gonna stick to the original plan, which was end of October.
So starting in here in August and then being in here more in October, the burning question I have is, how long did it take you to get your first Ambler parking ticket?
From Liz, you mean?
Or, Lorraine?
Yeah, Lorraine. Good old Lorraine.
I've gotten, I think, 3 so far.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Now you're indoctrinated though. You're one of the locals now.
So the first one was with the labeled van pulled up in front of the building with the flashers on. So it was so Dan, the landlords, helped me out with a few of them, but it's
Ruthless. Lorraine is ruthless.
It was like put the radar on.
10 miles a day.
I don't know how she moves so fast because she'll be in one spot and another spot in like a minute.
Yeah.
Cheetah, man. She's a cheetah.
Well, we appreciate you having us in. It's been amazing getting to know you, your story, your journey,
Twisted
everything.
Ginger story.
Yeah, Twisted Ginger story. It's been truly amazing. We hope you continue to prosper, have good people in here, and deliver an excellent product. Tell us where we can find you, social media, marketing, things of that nature.
So right now, it's Twisted Ginger's Ambler. Industrial Lounge is on Instagram. I think it's the same on Facebook. I don't get along with Facebook so much.
Not many
most
of us do.
don't.
It's weird. Like you're either on one or the other.
Yeah.
And the website's twistedgingers.beer. It's a thing.
Yep.
And we're actually going to be getting a menu up this week for beer delivery by DoorDash locally. Just life's all about conveniences. We have one wholesale account. By the end of the year, we're hoping to have a couple more.
Awesome.
But when I mentioned earlier about quality control measures, I would not sleep at night if I knew we were just sending out product into the wild without knowing that it had shelf stability and it was up to our specs. So that's all 95% done. So we're working at a steady pace, but we're not putting the cart before the horse. Like we're making sure that we're on point, and we want like the same experience you come in here. That's what those 4 cans that you buy are going to do the same at your home or your neighbor's house, on the beach somewhere. And right now it's either Manioc or here for our retail sales.
Okay.
And you guys are open here Wednesday to Sunday, happy hour, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yes, sir.
Come on in, grab yourself a pint.
20 ounces too. These are 20s, man.
Yeah.
I like
disco.
I like it. I like it. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Behind the Side Pod with Mark and Twisted Gingers, and we'll see you next time.